Welcome to Frontline Nursing, a NurseMinder production that gives you an insider's look into the daily life of nursing from those who are currently working on the front lines. Whether you're considering nursing as a profession, you're currently a student, or you're a nurse in transition, this show will help give you some behind-the-scenes information to help guide your career. My name is Tammy Dunnett, and I'm your host on today's show, and we are joined by Shelby Young. She's been an LPN since 2016 and currently works in the Emerge department and has her own nonprofit, Indigo Harm Reduction. Welcome to the show, Shelby.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I am super excited to have you here because you have been quite the change maker and innovator. You didn't let titles or education stop you. You found a gap and you just went in and you dove into the harm reduction. So I'm really curious to know, first of all, let's take a step back before we get there, is what was your passion that brought you into nursing? Because I'm wondering if there's a connection between that and where you're going.
I kind of fell into the world of nursing. I started off as an HCA when I was 18 years old. Mm-hmm. I'm now 30. And it was kind of just a quick certificate that thought would be a great way to have a stable income. I was deciding between that or becoming like a stage makeup artist in film.
Well, they're so different pathways.
It really is. And what won me over was the stability, which is, kind of weird because I'm definitely like a living on the edge type of person. But yeah, and then I loved it. I enjoyed it. I loved the connection with people and that taking care of somebody. And I just realized I wanted more than that because I was pretty young, and it took me a while. It definitely did. And I'm still on that journey, but yeah. And it's just sparked a huge passion. I was very fortunate to be able to get into a program that I love.
I do think nursing is always a journey. There's never a destination. You're forever learning and growing and finding new passions and learning what you dislike that can change as well.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about nursing is it's this ongoing occupation. And we've seen that from hundreds of years ago with Florence Nightingale. I mean, just her imagining the type of world of nursing that we have here today. So it's exciting. And if you are that type of person where you don't want to be just stuck in the one thing, and I kind of like to relate it to creativity as well too. It gives you a great way to be creative as well. And you're not just pushing, or you're not just on the floor, there's a lot of options.
Well, you took that creativity to a whole new level. You found a gap somewhere and you found a passion in Indigo Harm Reduction and providing education and services around harm reduction. Let's talk a little bit about how that evolved and came to be, and then we'll talk about your company.
Okay. Sorry.
How did you find, first of all, that there was a gap that you felt like you could service in terms of harm reduction?
Yeah, I grew up in British Columbia in the mountains of the Shuswap Lakes, and I grew up in a culture where a lot of people who would, smoke cannabis or, they lived a dependent lifestyle with substances, and it was like those people were the scum of the earth in my community, and I never really felt right about that. And as I got older, I definitely went down my own journey with partying and, experiencing and just, nightlife and stuff like that. And I saw this organization that attends, I grew up with another organization called Anchors, and just the downtown east side in Vancouver with Insight and the harm reduction programs that were happening down in the coast. And when I moved to Vancouver from the interior, I was very wow, there's this type of nursing and type of care that actually doesn't care about whether you are using a substance or you're living on the streets, you're living a high-risk lifestyle. There wasn't any judgment, and it was acceptance. And I really gravitated towards that because I've always had an issue with just why are we leaving people behind, or why do we have to treat somebody like that? What makes me better than them? And I never thought I would be here in Edmonton or Alberta. It kind of just life brought me here. And I was thankful that when I moved here and I went to Norquest, I was able to take part of a practicum at Streetworks. And I was kind of exposed to the harm reduction community here in Alberta. And I I'm a very avid festival goer, and I definitely see the broader spectrum of substance use. Whether, I lived in East Van, I'm a 30 something year old adult now. And, I always saw that you could have I don't want to say positive, but, non-problematic use with substances. And I thought that it was very weird that we didn't provide support and education and information to people who were still consuming, but not to the depth of dependency. And why don't we have programs like that? And Anchors and the Kootenays supports Shambhala Music Festival, and they created this amazing program that we've seen flourish in British Columbia in regards to event harm reduction, or festival health, and substance testing and stuff like that. So when I did my practicum, I was kind of just had this idea, I was always talking about the harm reduction at Shambhala, and a lot of the other nurses and work employees there also attended festivals. So it was really neat to connect with people and talk about ways like that. And then I started floor nursing, and I just saw a real lack in the community. My boyfriend's a DJ and producer, so we're out there in the scene, and I really see it firsthand. I'm a person with lived experience, and I'm seeing my friends and my family die, and they're not consuming very heavily, but they didn't deserve that, because they were being I don't want to say they didn't deserve that. And I wanted to change that, because I wanted to bring an organization and honest and real education information that people would absorb. Because a lot of what I see in the brinks of harm reduction, trying to reach people outside of really high risk lifestyles, is I wanted to be able to make sure that they had prevalent information that they know that they need. Mm-hmm. Because that's tricky with the demographics that we serve, is they're kind of naive in the fact that, oh, I don't need this. Yeah. I don't, so I just saw this, and I jumped on it. I actually launched Indigo way too soon.
Well, you just took your passion and ran with it. And I remember, actually, it wasn't long after you graduated that you were already doing education in the bars about Narcan and naloxone use.
Yeah, it was about a year.
Yeah.
I worked in med-surg, and I was I'm miserable. Excuse me. I mean, I love nursing. Don't get me wrong. My skills are amazing. I'm very thankful for that. And still to this day, it's why I like to keep a clinical position. But yeah, I was just, really embrace this license, or this mentality of a nurse. And, I learned from the best, I think, and you guys really taught me in scoping out something in our community that needs to change. I remember a project, actually, that we did on health need. Mm-hmm. And it kind of it reminded me of this project. I looked at Indigo as a project. That's and cool. Yeah, so yeah.
You actually mentioned quite a few things in there I wanted to come and circle back to. One was the overarching umbrella and belief in social justice.
Sorry, say what?
Was the belief in social justice, right? So that these people who are using, they shouldn't be treated any differently. They should still have access to information. They should have reasonable expectations of what they're taking and understanding.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about nursing as well. There's so many beautiful things, but I really like Florence Nightingale. She was a badass. She fought so hard, and I would love to be able to travel back in time and see that. And that's what we are here for, is we're here to advocate, and we're here to push for the better health of our community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really struck you even before you came into nursing, though. You were telling me the stories about BC and how you were noticing these differences and discrepancies. And I think the world is better that you went into nursing and not, was it makeup and
stage design? Yeah, the hardcore alien makeup.
Yeah. I think we're better off with you as a nurse.
Yeah, my parents are probably the best people to contest to that, and they always told me I always had my mind made up. I always knew you couldn't tell me different. And
yeah, so you have definitely been a trailblazer.
Thank you.
When you were starting your nonprofit, were you getting pushback even from that angle from other people in the area of harm reduction, or were you just welcomed into the fold? Because you had mentioned you had started out at Streetworks, your practicum, and so you already had made some connections and inroads.
Yeah, I was welcomed. Everybody has been very, very great in the harm reduction community, in taking and helping us grow and helping us learn and grow as an organization. We've had some great collabs come out of it as well too, and I'm really excited for the future. More so, it's been just kind of in my local scene, just regards to the way like some festivals run and so forth like that, and working with some kind of underground organizations. Just a lot of people were not very kind of happy with us, and I think it's because we kind of just came out of nowhere and disrupted things, I guess, in a way. So yeah, but I mean, like, bless their hearts for doing what they did, and I'm thankful that they took their time and energy to provide safety for the community. But you know, people like to take shots, and that's kind of like the best way to go. You know, that can be a cheap shot to an LPN, is to say, oh, well, you're just an LPN and don't call yourself a nurse. Get out of here.
That's just when you pull out your resume and go, oh, you see all of these things that I've accomplished and how far I've taken the profession.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so when you started with your business, it was Narcan teaching in like nightclubs and stuff like that, correct?
Yeah, I honestly didn't really I just had this idea. Like, my boyfriend just started DJing with this collective here in Edmonton, and I was like, okay, I want to be like involved. I don't want to be like just the DJ's girlfriend. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But I wanted to also bring something, and I was like, I'm going to like educate people, and you know, kind of grew the idea of having just like an educational table and also offering Narcan training.
And was that well received? Were people kind of hesitant at first, looking at you with a side eye, like, why are you here?
I mean, we generally get that a lot too. Just when we're out, people kind of like, whoa, this is like, you know, they get all like, oh my God, there's condoms.
You branched out since Narcan.
Yeah. I mean, we never really did Narcan training in any of the venues because that was kind of an issue. But AGLC was on us like right away. Not in a bad way. They saw what we were doing, and I don't even know how. I think it's I used to be a server when I took a break from being a healthcare aide, and I started working in the industry. And some of my contacts kind of were, you know, major bar restaurant people. So I think, you know, some of their friends who might work for HLC like saw them sharing my posts or something.
Sure.
And so then, yeah, I got it like within like a month of starting Indigo. I had a reach out from HLC, and they were just like, hey, let's have a meeting. Let's hear what you're doing and let's talk about it. And, you know, so we had the support from AGLC to be there, because that's like who the bar people or venues like care. I mean, obviously care about bar. Yeah. But, you know, AGLC has a huge role in their regulations, and AGLC was cool with us. They liked it. So it was definitely a lot of connections too, like just personal connections and doing a lot of things for free.
That's how most people start out.
Yeah.
So talk to us how you expanded and how you grew from where you started 2 years ago, 2017?
2017. Yeah, 2017.
Wow. We're almost at 3 years, because it wasn't in the spring?
Yeah, it'll be May.
3 years.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the growth and how you evolved and some of the lessons learned and some of the things you should have done maybe.
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride. Within the first 6 months of establishing Indigo, and a big part of this program I wanted to create it is I like mentioned about stigma and stuff like that, and I really wanted to help contribute to break down the stigma associated with people who use substance, because ultimately that denies access and creates barriers. And we stumbled upon this grant that ticked all of our boxes, and we found it, and that changed our game. That we actually ended up getting it. The Ministry of Health, we were awarded $70,000, and that's created us over the 2 years. So that without that grant, like, it would have been very, very, very hard. But it helped us propel and create into the movement that we are. And it's been snowball after snowball. And then we got our grant. So within 6 months, we were just doing club shows or hanging out with UBK, Future Roots, and all the underground, like, collective companies in Edmonton. And then and I've had training sessions and we had, like, gosh, I think in the first 3 months we had 40 volunteers. So
That's amazing.
You could tell it was really, really needed, because just how much the community was like, yes, we need this. Like, the support and the amount of people who wanted to get involved was just like, it was blossomed. And and same with the festivals and events here in Alberta as well too. They started to notice us. We were able to build some really great marketing programs and communication plans, which helped us reach potential clients. And sorry, I'm rambling.
No, you're doing great. You're taking me through the journey, and I'm actually sitting here thinking, wow, look at you and all these business terms, marketing plans, and all this kind of stuff. You have grown into such a leader in the industry of harm reduction, but as an LPN as well. And some others can look up to and go, wow, if she can do that, like, if she could just branch off on her passion and make something work, what's going to stop me?
Exactly. And it's nothing. And it's been one journey for sure. Like, it's been a lot of ups and downs and learning moments and experiences that have definitely shaped and made my, and you always hope for the best, but that's not how it goes. You always get thrown what you need to learn. And yeah, so it was really great. But so within 6 months, the city of Edmonton decided, Edmonton Police Services and Emergency Medical Services decided to put out a report stating that the city of Edmonton should vote on a moratorium to stop EDM, electronic music, concerts, because they're taking up a vast amount of our local resources during times of events. Like, we were looking at transport rates of about 33 people per event. And that's high compared to, like, your average of what the mass gathering medicine has conducted in research. Usually safely, you're about 1 per 1,000. And typically in a 5,000 people event, 3 transport, it's like, okay, that's like norm, So anyways, they decided to take this to City of Council. And in the Edmonton music scene, there's a huge electronic music community, and it ranges from small, deep, private underground parties to massive 5,000 raves. Wow. And then so it's a huge industry.
And trying to get shut down.
Yeah, well, and that was the thing, is like they never defined what they were banning, because, and even like Live Nation or Rogers Arena got involved, because like most touring artists now have electronic music as their music. Mostly everything's produced electronically. So it's like, you can't put out this moratorium in this report and say you're going to stop all these events, but you don't clearly define what you're stopping. So everybody got into a huge uproar, and I was like, well, this is what I've been waiting for, because I've had my eye on these events for a year now. And in the electronic community, these events were known as like really dirty, unsafe. Sorry, I hate saying the word dirty. Really just not very safe events, and just messy. And
are you referring to consumption of illicit there, or?
No, in regards to just the general overall environment of the event, because alcohol is also a key factor in that as well too. And also, there's a lot of sexual violence as well too that you see at these events, and violence. So I always knew that these were quite unsafe events, and that was like the word within the community. I personally never attended because that wasn't my scene.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew from my friends.
Sure.
And so I always knew I wanted to, like, I tried emailing the Shaw, or it was the Shaw conference at the time. And this is a funny story. I emailed the security director of the Edmonton Convention Center now.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote out this lovely email, and then I sent it too early, and I like didn't even finish it. I hit send by accident, and I had all these typos and these errors, and like it was a mess. And I was like, oh my God, no. And I couldn't retract it because it was too late. And then so I had to send her another long, lovely email apologizing for my previous email because I wanted her to take me seriously. Like, I didn't want to just be this like, oh, hey, guess what? I can take care of everybody and do everything. But I never heard back from her. So that's what sparked me to go down and talk also at the city council meeting, is because I knew that I could help contribute to make these events safer. And I was really upset that they were going to move into a prohibition model compared to looking to see how they can reduce harm.
Yeah, which was the biggest issue they were seeing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I like, you know, thankfully we have a lovely relationship with EPS now, but I definitely called them on it because I was like, hey, you guys have harm reduction listed as one of your main pillars of guiding principles for your organization, but then you're not choosing to enact that in other areas right now. Like, you can't just think of it as like reducing harm to the client. Like, oh, so you can give them $100 for their lost phone. Like, or, you know what I mean? Like, so we are, thankfully, City Council voted against it, and it actually created a working stakeholder group. And we all worked together we did like 4 or 5 meetings of just us brainstorming and talking and listening to each other and trying to find means on how we can create these events safer. In the meantime, Indigo just did its thing, and we started working with another medical company called Odyssey Medical. They're amazing folks. Dr. Adam Lund, he is the national medical director. He is very involved in mass gathering medicine, specifically out of UBC.
Does he have a military background?
I don't think so, but he is. Yeah, he is originally trained in Alberta, and Edmonton, and Calgary. So all the docs I work with know him, and he has some great work out there. They've really have helped us grow as an organization. I'm very thankful for the support and how we align as 2 organizations. So we started, because Odyssey really takes the Shambhala Music Festival method, where they have doctors, nurses, RPNs on site. They have it's like an on-site hospital. And they've really taken that and have now made that the standard of care for event medicine in North America, really. Yeah, and we're joining them on that journey by creating the type of, we like to refer to as festival health, or event harm reduction, or risk reduction. So Odyssey got involved in the events here as well, and we kind of shared knowledge of how things were being done at other events across North America, and we brought that here. And now that has become a new bylaw for event licensing and regulation, that you need to have on-site medical services, pre-hospital care basically, and then also a harm reduction organization and free water.
Girl, you need your superhero suit. You're changing the world.
Yeah, it's been a really crazy journey. And like, honestly, the moratorium was a great thing for us. We fought that pretty hard and got quite the attention over it. So, but I'm thankful that, you know, Edmonton as a municipality is very forward and very, like, they're great. I'm super thankful to be working with many organizations that are great.
So you shared earlier before we started the interview that you are now officially a nonprofit, but you were not before. So talk about that transition, because that's another major step and milestone, I think, as well.
Oh, yeah, that's been a process and a half, just
Mm.
trying to figure out what exactly the future of Indigo is. Because when I started Indigo, I just thought I was going to be a nurse for hire, and that, or you can hire me for your festival and I can do the health and safety, or I can, just, it's almost like like an expo table. Like that's what I was looking at it. And, I was selling my education, my information.
Yeah.
And so I started originally Indigo as a for-profit organization because I wanted to get paid. And
everybody does.
right? I'm a nurse. I expect to be compensated for my services. If you think of foot care.
Same thing.
Right? But that limits us in regards. And once Indigo started getting to the bigger side of things and it was growing into this actual movement, and not so much a business or organization anymore, it's definitely a movement that represents a demographic in the harm reduction community. And I want to see that grow. And for us to be able to operate at the capacity that we want to, has definitely hindered us. Like, we can't have salaries. And I definitely had like founders, like I've had my journey over the last 3 years, in realizing that Indigo isn't me. It's not me anymore. And I've definitely had to, learn to think about the future and letting go of the reins and moving out of all the spots and, just sitting on a board. Like, that just sounds so amazing.
It does sound like a process though as well. I mean, I can connect with that idea. Like, this was your idea and you thought it was going to be you and this is going to be your future. And now you have this massive following, and I don't know how many volunteers you have now, but I know it's a lot. And then now you're part of a board and you're letting go of the reins so that your baby can grow and become what its destiny is.
Exactly. And I'm ready for it. Like, I have sacrificed so much of my personal time and space and money. Like, Indigo, definitely, I have such a hate-love relationship with it because I get chills and, I'm so passionate about it and I just want to see this. I want to see people safe and I want to be able to guarantee that people have the right to know what's going into their body or what to expect and how to deal with situations. But I've sacrificed a lot of my personal time. Like, I don't go camping with my family. I am putting my paychecks right back into Indigo. Our grant only did specific things for us. And when there wasn't money that, needed to go, that came from me.
Yeah.
And, it's a big sacrifice, and I've had to really go through my own growth and realize what I want out of life and where my life is going, and had to take the reins of that to determine what's best for everybody. And that is, Indigo, Indigo was never for profit. I never took dividends. I definitely paid myself and my team like any nonprofit does, but everything went right back into Indigo. Mm-hmm. And that just, I want to have a child. I want to buy a house. I want to get married. And Indigo was starving me and Tyrone from that, my fiance. And so I just really want to see it be able to grow in a beautiful, healthy way, just as my own life. So it works better to have more involved, and everybody brings their own expertise and brings something to the table. And it's time for it to grow. We're actually just it's our first year as a nonprofit, and so far so good.
That's awesome. So I don't know how much time you have left for me because we got to start a little bit late.
I'm good.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit about what happens at an event? Like, so you're there and kind of like give us a visual of what that would look like.
Yeah, so we have different types of services though. Mostly what we see in the city here is we have a space. So we'll have an educational table up front, and you'll see our combo chart, so people are able to tell what's safe and what's not safe when they're combining substances. And then on that table, we'll have more educational resources, substance information, consent information, safe sex, sex health, mental health, resources within the community. And then we have volunteers that or team members, I like to say, because we definitely compensate them. They get to also enjoy the event as well. It's been a little tricky with our one-day events, but that's a different story that we're trying to work out. So they're there hanging out, answering any questions, any information that they have. And then inside we have, then we'll have a safe space. And our safe space is staffed with team members who have backgrounds in crisis diversion or crisis support or mental health or peer support as well. We really like to encompass peer support because you can't be a part of the community if you don't have the community with you.
Mm-hmm.
And we provide a nice area for people to access if they're feeling overwhelmed, if they're having a hard time with friends, if they're too intoxicated, if they are in a crisis situation, that we can provide a safe space for other team members and personnel to come and access and create that environment for that person. And then we act as like a meeting space, or like if friends get lost, they can come and access. We charge people's phones. We give people who like are just need an extra bit of support while they're at the event and that they don't have the support there. And then we also actually act as a step down from main medical as well too. So we provide, if somebody's medically cleared, but they're just not stable enough to be moved in the event, or like we're trying to find them a ride home, or they just need to like lay down and their friends are out in the crowd, and you know, we try and connect. We do have nurses obviously on team too. And then we also provide support in the main medical space as well. So if there's a patron that's not doing so great and they need extra hands to support their friends or family, or that type of situation, then we provide support there as well too. At other types of festivals, mostly outside of the city, we provide substance checking as well. So when we have, it would be like it would be separate spaces, and then we have an educational table and then a private off area that people are allowed to access and find out what's in their substances if it's safe. So we have numerous technologies that we use. We use reagent testing, which is a chemical that will tell you the presence. It's not the greatest because it is no guarantee. It just tells you the present is there. And we also use mass spectrometers. So we recently had probably in this fall, we had a FTIR Alpha 2 purchased for us. So we now have our own mass spectrometer. Before, we would work with other organizations from British Columbia to come out and provide the FTIR service.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's actually a whole nother conversation when it comes to substance checking.
Yeah, so you're checking for the presence of like what, cocaine and fentanyl and...
Yeah, so because there's no it's kind of quality control on the illicit market, people will put whatever they feel like in the substance.
Yes.
And so a lot of those adulterants are very deadly and very dangerous to your body. So basically, we're telling that person if there's any adulterants in their substance and confirming that it's what they believe it is. So yeah, we get a lot of substances like cocaine, acid, ketamine, MDMA. Those are the big ones that we see. MDMA, like you should see some of the stuff that is out there in these substances. It's very disturbing. And once you start seeing it firsthand, you're like, whoa.
And so when they get it checked, are they just wanting to confirm, yeah, I paid this guy some money for fentanyl. Is this really fentanyl? And then they still consume it? Or are they going, oh, thanks for saving me. I had no idea that this was even tainted.
Yeah, exactly. We don't like to frame it like that.
So sorry. Beat the label.
Yeah, we have to be very careful with our language. No, we are actually allowing somebody to know what they're consuming into their body safely.
Okay.
And the way I like to talk about substance checking in itself is that it's a hook. Because the main message and the main importance of that meeting with that person in that moment is that we're providing them with the right knowledge and practices to make sure that they make it home safely. And that is, substance checking is the exciting, fun thing and the sparkly thing. But then we like pound them with messages, and we make sure that they know where medical is, and they make sure they know their substances, and we make sure that they understand like what substance, like, you know, provide them with education information on how to stay safe. But we do see, like, yeah, if somebody gets something that's dangerous or they don't know what it is, they discard it safely. Mm-hmm. And then that person does not consume that substance.
Yeah. So you got two focuses there.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a whole another conversation, but we're definitely stay tuned, because there will be things coming from us in the next 6 months or so in regards to a new foundation that's starting in Alberta.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
That's cool. So with that, maybe I will, we'll move on to the emergency side of nursing and kind of make the connection. Did you pick emergency because there's still a connection to that population and it's still part of the front line, or is it just kind of found you just like this did?
Well, emergency and harm reduction have always been kind of like where I wanted to be as a nurse. Harm reduction came first, and then the opportunity of emergency came with Indigo, because the beautiful thing about emergency nursing as well is that seems to be my tagline. Emergency nursing really kind of found me. I kind of gave up on it because I was in medicine and I was not very happy with the type of nursing I was doing. Indigo started, but like I still love the clinical aspect of nursing. So I would stay casual with medicine, and I still needed a strong paycheck.
Yeah, entrepreneurs do.
Right? And through Indigo, through Odyssey Medical, I met a doctor here in Edmonton who worked at my hospital. And I was like, oh my God, I've always wanted to work in emergency. Like, I'm in medicine, help me. And yeah, he connected me with one of the managers of my current unit. And she arranged an interview, and I was able to woo her.
I don't think that would have taken much. You're an amazing person to begin with, so.
Yeah. And that kind of sparked that passion again, because I never thought, when I was working in med, I was like, oh my God, there's emergency posting, and I would apply, and I never got it. And then I just started following my own path, and eventually it came into my lap. And it's been great too, because like in emergency, yeah, we do get to see a lot of situations that require some harm reduction education information. And like, I'm known in the department as like a harm reduction nurse.
Yeah, you get all those patients.
Yeah, and it's great because, like, you know, I actually am very fortunate to, like, my colleagues definitely they're great nurses. I mean, I'm very fortunate. But it's you definitely see it a lot harder in emergency nursing. You know, you see how broken the system is. It's a lot harder. It makes me definitely want to be out there more, but I've learned so much, like my nursing diagnosis and, you know, signs and symptoms, like it's great. Maybe you're a stronger nurse.
Now, what about the stigma? You know, you identified early on that there was a stigma in the community, and I have an emergency nurse, ICU nurse background, and I certainly know that we can get hardened and we can start to get a little bit less compassionate for maybe repeat people or seeing the same situation over and over again, not necessarily the person, but the situation, because we know that there is a gap in the community and it gets hard on us emotionally. What are you seeing in terms of differences between your emerge nursing and your Indigo work in terms of that stigma?
That's been a bit of a personal journey for me in the last 6 months. Burnout is real. burnout is so real and makes you a miserable person. And I started to notice that. But then I did get burnt out. And I mean, it wasn't like rude or abrasive, but I just didn't care as much as I should have. Yeah. Or, you know, as a nurse, you should. And I kind of had an eye-opening because I thought to myself, I'm like, do you want to be like that? And then I started to notice my coworkers and the ones that I gravitate to, and just, you know, how they do it. And I was really amazed, and I kind of told myself, okay, like I'm going to try and start being more positive and not letting that their frustrations and the frustrations of the system affect my output of energy into this community. And I really kind of stopped with the bitterness. I wouldn't say bitterness, that's a little too harsh, but I stopped, because it is very real, especially in emerge nursing. Definitely, you see it. And I mean, like my poor boyfriend, fiance, he gets a cold and he just wants sympathy. And I'm like, you're fine. You're okay. Take some Tylenol, babe. Like, you know, because I'm used to my type of like worry, like, you know, what I see at work is definitely hardened me for sure.
Yeah. But do you find anything in particular regarding the population that requires services that Indigo provides, the education, the drug use? Do you find that there's a different approach in emerge? Hardened with that, or is your presence there keeping them soft and more connected?
Well, I mean, we have to remember Indigo's demographics are usually 18 to 35 years old who, you know, they may or may not have a safe home. Like, you know, generally the demographics that we serve have enough income to have a roof over their head, and they're not accessing the emergency room as, you know, shelter or accessing shelters. But mind you, they might. Like, I can't not say that, but majority, I would be safe to say, definitely have a comfy lifestyle. So it is interesting when we do see that type of demographics come in, and it's kind of, you know, it's 50-50. Like, you see some nurses who are like, why would they do that? That's so stupid. Like, you know, I don't really see that a lot, but maybe it's the type of who I surround myself with at work. But, and then you do have the other like compassionate side. Oh my God, they're so young. Like, oh, like I can't believe this happened to them, and stuff like that. So it's hard. And I definitely try to make sure that my presence brings, like, you know, an understanding of people's struggles and issues when it comes to substance use. Especially because my department, we don't really get like the heavy stuff. We're not a trauma center. All our stuff would, you know, mostly be like GHB intoxication, or an opiate overdose, or, you know, a low level serotonin syndrome, or, you know, low level polysubstance. And then, you know, but so we definitely do see a lot of GHB, and yeah, it's interesting. I try to bring that bubble that, you know, and people definitely know to watch their language around me, because I will, you know, will call them out.
Passionate about, making sure they get that social justice.
Yeah, exactly. But I definitely, you know, live in a bubble for sure. I choose.
Good.
Yeah, you know, and to have a healthy work relationship, you need to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who add to your work, not make you miserable. Yeah. Do
you have any advice for people who are thinking about getting into a nonprofit? You know, I think there's a lot of people who are passionate about a population that they want to serve, and a nonprofit might just be something that they could consider.
Do your research. Do your research. There's a lot of great help here in Edmonton for nonprofits and starting up a nonprofit, and being able to build your bylaws and your paperwork and registering and building a board. Where, you know, it's definitely some selfless work. It requires a lot of work, especially when you are starting something from ground zero. You don't realize how much work actually goes into making those messages and building and learning, but it's worth it in the end. Like, it really is.
There's a good reason why you don't know, right? Because once you make the decision, like you found something you wanted to do, you made the decision, you didn't know the path.
Yeah.
You made a decision. And I was just talking about this the other day in my Conquer Conflict group, is that when you make a decision, you're saying no to every other possibility, right? You decided you were going to do harm reduction, which meant you were saying no to all these other potential things to do. You didn't know it was going to take you to a nonprofit. And I think when you find something you're passionate about, you just decide, the journey just evolves, as you have explained so eloquently in this interview, that, the first 6 months you didn't know what you were doing, you just started, and then AGLC reached out to you, and then the other agency, I can't remember the name now, that you work.
The Ministry of Health.
Odyssey?
Oh, Odyssey. Yeah. Sorry.
And the Minister of Health. Right, so the journey just evolved, but you always knew where you were going. You just didn't know how you were getting there, and there's a good reason you don't know the work, because if you knew the work, you would have never started the journey.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming.
100%. And I take such special spots for like new nurses, because I feel like nursing can be very institutionalized. Mm-hmm. And it's always great to remind people that you definitely don't have to follow the path. You don't have to do this box of nursing that you are told to do. And I really want to empower others to be able to find their nursing voice and see where they can add into the community, and don't always feel like you're going to be stuck on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you definitely have opened a lot of eyes to different opportunities and ways that they can still use their knowledge and serve the community that they want to serve. So thank you so much for being on Frontline Nursing today, Shelby.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And so for those who are listening and want to get some more information, be sure to head over to nurseminder.com and click on the link Frontline Nursing. You can become a member and you'll get access to all sorts of extra bonus content. And I look forward to seeing you there. Now, if you'd like to be interviewed for an upcoming podcast of Frontline Nursing and you have an interesting story you'd like to share, we would love to hear from you. Send me an email at info@tammydunnett.com and use the subject line Frontline Nursing. Talk to you soon.